Naruto 618, an awesome last page, but there are so many little interesting details in this chapter. It's amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and follow through the whole thing of the shrine, the Uzumaki shrine, and it makes sense because their main thing was sealing, so the Death Reaper would fall into their area. But all these masks, what are the rest of them for? They just for show, or they all do something? So that was kind of crazy. And but that made sense. This whole thing feels absolutely planned out. This feels like something that Kishimoto, it feels like we're part of the manga now in the story, where Kishimoto has really thought everything through. This is how it feels to me. So I'm really excited for a lot of reasons. There's just so many things to get to. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's do our best. Okay, Sasuke's returning. All right, I'm going to go wrap up a few things real quick. There's a lot to talk about, but the whole thing about Sasuke, look, he ponders, he struggles, and then he feels that he has to get power, and he becomes more evil. This is what's going to happen. This is what's happened all the way through, and he's pondering. He's going to be given a choice. You've already seen the jealousy and everything in him, and he's going to choose evil to get power. So there we are. There's an answer right there on what Sasuke is going to do. Now the whole thing, Suigetsu, I got it just for a moment. The whole Suigetsu Orochimaru thing is hilarious to me. The whole deal, he's afraid of him, he hates him, he tries to, to butter up to him to be buddies, and I love this. I know it's going to be really, to me, Suigetsu is one of the few characters that's actually very funny in Naruto. I think he's really good. So I can't wait for the anime. It's going to be really good. But anyway, so there's that which I found really entertaining, and then of course what made that, just the last little bit of that was Orochimaru's response. Well, you're not a snake anymore, so you're not really part of my little group. So I loved that. And that was. And I'm sure Suigetsu's like, oh yeah, he's in trouble. So then it gets crazy. Okay, as soon as we get into the whole thing, actually using the mask. This is a chapter worth reading several times. There's a lot of interesting things in there. As soon as Orochimaru puts on the mask, right, and you see him, changing, oh yeah, Death Reaper behind him, the whole deal, and then it's kind of the little, the kind of little flashback to actually explain a little bit. This is just so well done. Kishimoto's just, and then bam, he gets his arms back. Oh yeah, that was pretty crazy. To me, this was right then and there. This was. Excitement level and everything was just, it was a whole chapter to me, but it doesn't stop. So we find out that Obito, and this is good because maybe we ought to kind of remember the connection, because Obito has some kind of plans for Sasuke, and the whole thing about him knowing where he was when Deidre almost killed him and all that. So he knew because he's got 6 Zetsus in him. And wow, okay, so yeah, so now we know that. But so it also means that Obito should be getting through this network of Zetsus, right? Unless there's, unless killing the main Zetsu did something or whatever. But anyway, functioning properly, he should still know what's going on. He should still know really what's going on with Sasuke. He should know all this. Okay, the same way Orochimaru kind of knew through his marks and everything they had on people. He was able to understand and get information, understand what's going on. So that brings, now Obito's back in there. He should be knowing what's going on. He should have known that his connection with Sasuke just got cut off. So whatever plans that he still had with Sasuke. There are so many other things that I want to get into. But anyway, I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. But this was a crazy chapter. Okay, another thing is the whole thing with Jugo. Have you noticed that Jugo is like the most, I mean, when Orochimaru says something, Jugo, he's like, bam, he does it. and the scroll. Just for a second, I want to go back to the scroll. And I actually went back and looked at the chapter. The chapter that Suigetsu gets the scroll, or he finds the scroll, is 574. And what makes this so interesting is Jugo, of course, remember, Jugo starts, in my opinion, starts a confrontation verbally with Suigetsu, okay, to get him going. And then he just happens to knock out a wall, and Suigetsu just happens to get the scroll. Orochimaru seems to just be either the luckiest person in the world, right, the way everything works out, or the most manipulative. I'm going for most manipulative. He's in the driver's seat of this whole thing. Remember, he was watching, okay, and I have a feeling that he can communicate too. I really do have this feeling. And the whole thing about, and he did say he didn't know what was going on. And that whole thing of instantly getting all that information from Kabuto when he made contact with him, I think he already knew that. I don't think, but anyway. So, it's, Orochimaru just seems to more and more, everything, the whole thing even with Kabuto when he, remember when that whole thing was set up where, the mother didn't recognize Kabuto anymore and he's just falling apart, and Orochimaru just happens to pop up out of the water, and scrolls just happen to go to people, and all of a sudden the motivation to bring back Orochimaru, just everything just seems to happen. Orochimaru is just, Kishimoto, this character, he was always my favorite bad guy, but wow, as far as the genius level, this is something else. Yeah, this is crazy. Anyway, so to go ahead and, like I said, there's a ton of things when you're going through this chapter that really to stop and think about. So, okay, the 6 Zetsus, the whole thing about them being used, okay, for the Edo Tensei, I don't have a problem with any of that. It seems to me. I don't get it. I don't squibble because, I mean, this is pretty well make-believe. Now, the whole thing, can you imagine, the whole thing about the intensity of this when this gets animated? Orochimaru's done it. He's got his arms back. He's accomplishing his goals. And then the whole thing where he goes, he's snake mode, and he's like, they're coming. That whole thing, coming out of his, that is crazy. And then, of course, they show a picture of him, and it seems like his arms are, and then he looks like he's part Zetsu and part, yeah, he's on there. The ones who know everything, and then he's doing the whole Zuzu, which anybody that seems to have anything from the first Hokage seems to do. So whatever that means, I wonder, is there a translation to Zuzu, or is that just some crazy sound? Does that have some kind of deeper meaning? But anyway, so we get to the last page, and the 4 Kages, the 4 Hokages themselves from the Leaf Village, of course, are back, and it almost gets me, and if I remember correctly, it was the second, okay, Hokage that was the one that perfected this. I'm starting to come to the conclusion that he probably perfected this to communicate with people as opposed to creating rampaging puppet monsters. Okay, I think that was actually the original intent, but of course we know anything that can be used for good or can be used for bad, so that looks like what it is. This is, but then again, where do we go from now? What are they going to do? My own feeling is, get prepared for some flashbacks. I think that we're going to start seeing some more stories. Another thing is I really want to stay where we're at right here. I mean, it was a long time until I wanted to switch over from what was going on with Naruto, but I really want to know what's going on here. So, anyway, this has been running on very long. I appreciate everyone's patience. I'm going to close it up. There's a ton of things to bring out in discussion, and a lot of what's going on here, people have, maybe they weren't dead on, but some of this is dead on. A lot of people have been talking about this kind of stuff, the Reaper Death Seal, the Kage is coming back. I just, from viewer comments and everything, this stuff has been out there. So, yeah, this is crazy. This is an awesome chapter. This is a chapter I'm going to reread several times this week, just enjoying it. Anybody could be an anime fan. Anybody could be a Naruto fan. You can always subscribe. You can always unsubscribe. You can do anything you want to. Until next time, take care.